What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about crankbaits. So, crankbait fishing, probably one of the more popular ways of catching fish, just because it is so much fun, right? It's fun to just reel it in and get that bite. I personally love it a lot. Probably one of my, I would say, top 3 ways of catching fish, but definitely a lot of fun. So, what do you need to throw a crankbait, right? That's what I really want to get into in this video, just because it's something I had to learn, and I think I threw my first crankbait ever on my Senko setup, and it wasn't the most optimal. I caught fish, but I remember losing a good amount just because I didn't have the right setup for it. So I wanted, I guess, show you guys what I use today and why it's like helped me tremendously from that original setup. So let's talk about the rod, reel, and I guess the crankbait that I was using, and I'll show you guys a video of me catching a fish and why the rod is so paramount to, throwing a crankbait. All right, guys, we're gonna be talking about the rod first. I think it's the most important thing to have dialed in when crankbait fishing. And in my case, I had ended up going with the DOBYNS Champion XP 7-foot, medium heavy, moderate fast action glass rod. So a lot going on in there, and I will break it down for you. And this is kind of like more like an advanced tune-in. So let's start off by saying that I think the most common way of fishing a crankbait would be on a medium graphite rod, and they usually use it like either a moderate fast or a fast action, but that's what I've seen more commonly used, right? So this is what I've ended up dialing in. I went with the 7-foot medium heavy glass. So if you think about a glass, naturally has a lot more give naturally already than a graphite rod. A graphite rod is more on the sensitive side, that it's a little stiffer and lighter. So the glass being heavier and having more bend to it, it already by itself in nature is already a good crankbait rod. But I went with that medium heavy to make it a little stiffer around the bottom section of the rod. But then I also went with the moderate fast action to give it more of a give toward the tip of the rod. So I guess if you look at it from my perspective, it's very strong. It will haul fish out, but it also has that perfect bend at the top because it's naturally parabolic, and it also has a moderate fast tip. So it even has a better give to it. So some people might argue that might be a noodle stick, but you have to try it out. With the medium heavy setup on the bottom, it has like the best of both worlds, I want to say. So that's the rod I ended up using, and it's been great for me ever since I got it. I always pair it up with my REVO MGX, and the gear ratio I think is the second most important thing. I always use a 5-4-1, but I ended up going to a 6-8-1, just because the 5-4-1, it was great during cold months, just because you really want to crank it slow. But the 6-8-1 ended up being my go-to now, just because it's the perfect medium between not going too fast, not too slow. And the REVO MGX has been a great reel, a workhorse of a reel. And then I think the third most important component would be the line. You definitely need a good line, especially if you're going to be throwing into like rock and gravel and shell bars and stuff like that. So I always end up going with the 12-pound test SEAGUAR ABRAZX. So that's my go-to line. I always bump it up or down depending on my conditions, but that's usually my go-to. And then crankbaits, well, I guess the crankbait, it's really up to personal preference. I usually go with the Berkeley Fred side as one of my go-tos, and it's a flat-sided crankbait. It's nice and flat. And in the video coming up is going to show you this exact one and it's the bluegill pattern, just because in my lake there's no shad. It's really all bluegill that they kind of munch on, and minnows. So this bluegill pattern was absolutely perfect. Then the how to and where, I'm gonna say, from my personal experience, right? I'm no pro or anything, but from my experience, I've always thrown on good flats. Flats is always my go-to on where I fish it. I try to look for small wood, not too like gnarly, you know, brush piles, because they'll probably get hung up. But if there's sparse wood and there's the good gravel, sand, a little bit of grass, you know, sparse grass, has been perfect for my crankbaits. I always end up catching them there. And then the how-to, always, you know, obviously a straight retrieve always works. Work on your speed, either fast or slow, depending on how they like it. But one thing that I definitely dialed in on was I would catch a lot of bluegills just running away from bass, and they would do that. They would do the stop and go. They would shimmy along, stop, and once they realized that the bass is behind them, they would just go again. And I would see that multiple times during the fall run. So that ended up being my cadence on catching these fish. I would shimmy it, reel it in like, you know, 3-4 cranks, stop for like a second or two, and then 3-4 cranks, and then I would always get, like, I would get bit, you know, 9 out of 10 times doing that retrieve. So yeah, I'll put up the video now. I'll even show you guys the comparison on the fritz side to an actual bait that I caught. So yeah, if you guys like the video, you know, please like, subscribe, and I'll be, you know, trying to put up as many videos as I can like this. And if you guys have any tips or comments, you know, leave them down below. So hope you guys enjoy the video, guys. See you guys on the next one.
Alright, this is last stop. Back at the pier, see if we can get another one. Guys, I just caught a little bait. I don't know, I think I just snagged it, but look at the resemblance. That's what I'm fishing, that's what they're eating. That's crazy. Look at the size comparison, look at the shape, the color. I think we're matching the hatch pretty good right now. So I'm gonna try to let this guy go. I hope he makes it, you know, at least to feed another fish, but that's what they're feeding on, guys. Little bluegill, little sunfish. Can barely hold them. Yeah, that's what they're eating. Just let them go. Probably gonna get snatched up by something. So I got a fish on. Do you want to talk about it?
So as you can see, I got a little excited fighting this fish, but I really just wanted to point out the absolute need for a really good parabolic rod, you know, in that moderate fast action. It makes a world of difference when fishing treble hook baits. The rod will fight the fish for you, pretty much. It'll prevent, you know, from losing fish when they turn on you and, you know, knocking those hooks out. So in my opinion, absolute need for a great parabolic rod.
That's like about a pound, maybe a pound and a half maybe, but check it out. He went right for that bluegill pattern crankbait, just as we caught that little bluegill to, you know, show comparison. Take these shrivels out of him or her. But you see, look, it was one hook, skin hook. So you want a parabolic rod to be able to fight him. Look at this hook, crazy. It was like a really hard piece of skin. Okay, there you go. Again, Berkeley Fritz side. See, nice little fish, and that's what they're feeding on. There you go. Pretty fish. Alright, now let him go. Alright. So, yeah, I'll do a video more about crankbait fishing, you know, just for all the people that started to get into fishing, because it's something I had to learn on the fly. And yeah, hoping to make more videos for these like call them tutorial videos, call them. There you go, Berkeley Fritz side doing some damage today. Nice. All right guys, thank you.